ASAP. And the selection committee has narrowed it down to 25 choices.
With Vought's CEO Stan Edgar out of the picture, Homelander is short on strategic allies. I mean, he's pretty much surrounded by imbeciles who would agree to eat dog poop if he asked them to. Well, you can't really blame them, given that Homelander has a habit of lasering people he doesn't like, and he's not beneath killing people to satisfy his ego.
Ugh, not that slutty cum rag.
Hold up. I thought he ate.
But this created a peculiar problem for him. The fear is forcing those around him to act like puppets. There's no one really to counter him when he's wrong or show him a direction. And by the way, Homelander realizing that he could be wrong is pretty mature for him. Nevertheless, under these circumstances, Ashley comes up with a list of supes to fill the 3 empty slots. And that's the list we're gonna explore. The ultimate list of the 27 supes from Vought's Hero Directory. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. So thank you. Let's begin. Talon. She's the first supe that Ashley pitches, mostly because she had the best social media presence when compared to all other supes on the list for prospective recruits. I'm assuming that it was not long after her birth that her parents agreed to Vaught's offer to give her compound V. Of course, she developed her abilities and superhuman strength soon after. As a supe influencer, Talon has like 23 million subs and followers on Vaught's in-house social media and Instagram. Now, her fame also brought her into the movie and showbiz industry, and she starred in stuff like Tech Knight's Heat of the Night. Additionally, she shot the pilots for the other shows like Claw Force, Claws, Talon, Night Huntress, and Claws of Justice. But unfortunately, these shows could never really pick up. She serves the town of Redlands in California, known for its 19th century buildings. But the interesting thing about Talon is that she's 1/8 Navajo, meaning that one of her great-grandparents was a Navajo. Now, I don't want to speculate or sound stereotypical, but if history is to be believed, they somehow end up giving magical powers to the native people. As far as the comics are concerned, Talon appears in one flashback scene, but manages to leave quite a mark. So Tech Knight and Swing Wing would often chase Talon since she was more of an anti-hero. However, the 3 of them grew closer and became friends. So much so that Tech Knight wouldn't mind that Talon knew about his tech cave. But one day, she simply disappeared, only to return after a few years at the tech cave. Here, the 3 of them started talking. But one thing led to another, and Talon proposed a threesome with Tech Knight and Swing Wing. Of course, the guys agreed, but both of them fell in love with her, and thus began a rivalry that ended in the deaths of the men. What happened to Talon after that is anybody's guess. Now let's talk about powers. So Talon gets her name from the retractable carbon steel nails that she has. They seem quite sturdy and sharp, and are of course used for offense. Vought says that she's great at picking locks, which might be the result of her talons being more dexterous than we know. She's also known to have some degree of artistic ability. Apart from this, she's supposed to be good at track and field and acrobatics. Her only known weakness is super high frequencies, which may render her temporarily neutralized. Europa. Europa was with the G-Force, part of the G-Men superhero group, which is the whole enterprise set up by John Godolkin. Now, Godolkin University was a major part of the Gen V TV show, but Godolkin was a sick son of a witch who used to abuse young soup children and brainwash them into serving him. Real nasty. The G-Men might not pack the heaviest punch, but they sure rake in the dough, which kinda makes them a goldmine for Vought American. Like most of his friends, Europa was probably taken as a kid by Godolkin, all prepped up to be a superhero under the guise of being an orphan. When Dimebag from G-Wiz got kidnapped by the boys and revealed all about Godolkin's shady dealings, Europa stepped in to shut him up for good, so that the dirty secrets could be protected. Europa was last seen with his team and other G-Men associates right before Vought American decided to wipe them all out, along with Godolkin, to squash the risk they posed. Created by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson, Europa first appeared in The Boys number 24 back in 2008. He's a part of the G-Men, who kinda mirror Marvel's X-Men. Europa is a parody of Nightcrawler from the X-Men, with both being teleporters. In The Boys TV show, we see a wanted poster for Europa in Mother's Milk's closet. This closet also lists all his alleged dirty deeds, along with those of many other supes. Hyperion. Back in her teenage days, Hyperion was part of the young soup team called the Teenage Kicks. She later worked as a supermodel, and got the runner-up spot on season 15 of Vought's Next Top Supermodel. She even came close to stealing the title of Sexiest Soup Alive from Homelander. Given how beautiful she is, she was all over the small screen, and made waves in shows like Too Hot to Handle, Street Heat, and the Dirty Diaries series, both in Reno and Mazatlan. Her gigs lean heavily toward the sultry side, which shapes her public persona as a temptress of the tube. In the show, she made made an appearance in Season 4's episode Department of Dirty Tricks, the first episode in fact. Hyperion was one of the 25 hopefuls aiming to crack into the 7. She's based in Las Vegas, but Ashley Barrett barely glanced at her profile before moving on to review the next candidate, dismissing Hyperion with a crude flick of the wrist. When it comes to her powers, Hyperion's got a few tricks up her sleeve. Vought claims she has superhuman intuition. They also mention her so-called divine femininity and her fireproof hair. But again, they're stingy with specifics. Her superhuman hearing, however, is no secret. She can pick up things that would slip past a normal human ear, and she can also hear high-pitched sounds with ease. Hyperion knows her way around a rhythmic gymnastics routine, and she's trained in hand-to-hand combat at the Black Noir Martial Arts Academy. Plus, she's great with knives. And let's not forget her last ability. She can pose like a queen. Of course, she picked up these skills with Vought's own modeling online course. The Standard. The Standard was a part of the religious superhero group called the Young Americans. Of course, the team wanted to keep things looking clean, chaste, and mildly conservative for the cameras, but let's be real, it was all just for show. After all, it is the boys we're talking about. When the team first started, the Standard was chosen as their leader until Drummer Boy took over the leadership role from the Standard. The why behind the switch-up was never really revealed. I mean, he was there in the comics, and Garth Ennis didn't really feel the need to speak about it at length, I suppose. As for whether the Standard stuck around with the team or abandoned it after getting replaced, that's anyone's guess. So yeah, not a lot of info on this guy. I mean, you could say he was a younger version of Ezekiel who just found himself pasted all over a vanity van after messing with Butcher. Lady Arclight. In issue number 61 of The Boys, a new super team called the Paralytics makes its first and unfortunately only appearance. They had been hired by Vought American and had all the features of the 90s comic book heroes. I'm talking about massive muscles, outrageous hairdos, and loads of cybernetic parts. But they don't stick around long. Butcher and Mother's Milk make quick work of them. I mean, the two of them literally tear the Supes apart. The roster includes some gems like Trojan, Astroglide, the Truncheon, Strap-On, Stopcock, and of course, Lady Arclight. Names that riff on the over-the-top characters typical of the 90s. Their designs are equally weird too, as they prioritize the flashy and the futuristic over any sort of practicality. Dognot. In what can be called the weirdest and sickest twist on Beast Boy, we meet Dognot, a hero whose powers and past are as wild as they come. Hailing from Portland, Dognot has the unique ability to call on feral canines. Whether these are local wild dogs or ones he magically conjures up is anyone's guess. His toolkit doesn't stop there. He's also got canine telepathy, meaning that he can sniff out cancer, has super hearing, sees in the dark, and yep, he's not a fan of fireworks. Interestingly, Dognot isn't new to the spotlight. His resume includes starring in the reality show Pound Town with Dognot, leading roles in the Doggy's Home Vought Kids movie series, performing in the Voughtland Animal Stunt Show, and hosting a niche cable series, Animal Husbandry for Fun and Profit. Damn, I really want to watch some of these, you know? Just for fun. At least the ones Hyperion starred on must be a treat to the eyes. His skills were honed at Julius Rome's obedience school. A-Train and the Deep have their own take on Dognot's sickening behavior, and that's putting it lightly. When Ashley brings up Dognot, A-Train says, "Hold up, I thought he ate a dog." The Deep corrects him and says, "He ate out a dog, it's a big difference." Of course, the Deep would want to correct him, given that he's in a relationship with an octopus, who, by the way, was voiced by Tilda Swinton. Yep, anyway, Dognot also runs with the Teenage Kicks crew in the comics. Malchemical. Malchemical first appeared in The Boys number 40. He starts off with Team Titanic, but gets kicked out after shapeshifting into the team leader to seduce his girlfriend. As a sort of twisted punishment, he's put in charge of Super Duper, a team with young heroes whose powers are pretty minor. Right off the bat, Malchemical finds out his new team members have intellectual disabilities, and decides to make their lives miserable. Using his shapeshifting ability, he relentlessly bullies the Super Duper members, going as far as exploiting their fears. His reign of terror leads one of the members to report him to Vought. In response, Malchemical transforms to discover and then play on her deepest fears. However, Huey steps in and tries to take Malchemical down, but struggles. Enter Billy Butcher, who ends Malchemical's terror for good by setting him ablaze while he's in a gaseous state. Malchemical is the worst kind of villain, one who uses his powers to dominate and terrorize others, particularly those less able to defend themselves. His end, delivered by Butcher, is a brutal but fitting conclusion to his cruelty. What sets Malchemical apart from someone like Homelander is restraint, or rather his lack of it. Homelander, despite his instability, is obsessed with his public image, which keeps his darker impulses in check. Barely, though. He stops short of doing truly horrific acts if it risks his beloved hero status. Malchemical, lacking the same level of fame or scrutiny, feels no such pressures. This lack of restraint allows him to act cruelly without fear of consequences, making him a truly unrestrained force of malice within the team. Given his underdog status, it's no surprise that Malchemical likely won't appear in Season 4 of The Boys. But more importantly, his story is filled with hate and cruelty, and that would be pretty tough to portray without significant changes to his character, especially considering the controversial nature of his actions. While his powers might be intriguing on screen, the character himself would need a major overhaul to be palatable for viewers. Big Game. Big Game is currently the leader of the Teenage Kicks, but to be honest, he doesn't deserve to lead anything. Although he's a hero to the public, he's just despicable as a person. In his private life, he does all sorts of heinous things, be it participating in massive orgies and abusing drugs beyond his capacity. This guy has done it all, and wants more of the same. He's secretly bisexual, so he has casual sex with people like Dognot and Shoutout. They once saw him being jerked off by this female celebrity as well. Eventually, someone photographed Teenage Kicks in their lewd acts and sick perversions and threatened to make it public. Of course, the someone was the boys, who wanted the sick Soup team to come clean with the public. In the end, Shoutout was made the scapegoat. After finally learning that it was the boys who'd been threatening the team, Big Game came up with a plan to seek revenge. Basically, he wanted to eliminate the boys, but before they could do anything of significance, Butcher headbutted the sick Soup, breaking his nose and a few teeth.
I'm Tech Knight, and I won't stop searching until I've found.
Tech Knight. Tech Knight, real name Robert Vernon, is a celebrity superhero detective reminiscent of Iron Man, but without inherent superpowers. Instead, he relies on his considerable wealth and a high-tech suit, which enhances his hearing, strength, and durability with V-enhanced technology. Despite his public persona, Tech Knight's actions paint a picture of corruption, using his money to manipulate outcomes to his favor, a common theme in The Boys. Tech's suit allows him to fly and shoot electromagnetic waves, and it houses various weapons. However, he harbors a disturbing psychological issue, compelling him to engage sexually with both creatures and inanimate objects, leading to an unsettling attack on his butler. Tech Knight's influence stretches beyond the comics. In The Boys TV series, he's mentioned sporadically. In Season 1, a victim at a support group reveals that Tech Knight's rescue attempt left her paraplegic. By Season 2, ex-Vought CEO Stan Edgar references him dismissively to Homelander. Moreover, Tech Knight appears in the 2023 spin-off Gen V, under the pretense of investigating a death for his true crime show. His actual mission is to pin the blame on a student to cover up Vaught's clandestine activities. However, his plan unravels when Principal Shetty threatens to expose his peculiar sexual behavior. You see, the man was dying because of a messed up brain, and this condition had led to Tech Knight making love to just about anything with a hole. Literally anything. It didn't even have to be a human or an animal. But yeah, no one's surprised. Crazy sexual orientation is no stranger to the boys.
Welcome to Laser Me. But I'm guessing you need me in my party trick for something.
Sister Sage. Jessica Bradley, known as Sister Sage, is clearly not just any superhero in The Boys. Needless to say, she's here to rock things up, and no one really knows what she wants. She's the smartest person alive, which is something that does set her apart from the crowd. But it's an attribute that also isolates her. Although she was previously part of Teenage Kicks, she left the group due to a clash of egos. Her intellect tends to rub people the wrong way, which sparks a blend of awe and animosity. Homelander spots her on screen at Vought Tower and sees potential. Despite his own superior attitude, or perhaps because of it, he recognizes a kindred spirit in Sage's condescension. He approaches her in disguise and tells her about his plan to turn Ryan into the next Homelander. In fact, he also wants to control the government with Victoria Newman as a puppet president, which would help him reshape and whitewash his public image. With Vaught's CEO Stan Edgar out of the picture, Homelander is short on strategic allies. He recruits Sage for her ability to multitask and her knack for original strategies that could enhance Vaught's image and profitability. He also sees adding Sage, a black woman, to the Seven as a PR win. Sage agrees to join Homelander not out of any desire to support his supremacy, but for the sheer challenge it presents. Despite detesting the superficial aspect of the role, like photo ops and public appearances, she dives into the strategic work with gusto. Her first major play involves framing the Starlighters during a protest, painting them as violent despite their progressive stance. This enhances Homelander's victim narrative while tarnishing his opposition. Sage's strategies are complex, which have been leaving Butcher and the boys scrambling to anticipate her next moves. And they aren't winning. Even with Homelander's tight grip, she knows how to maneuver within the system and leverage media narratives to bolster Homelander's position. In the 4th episode, she made the Deep perform a lobotomy on her, which helps her relax and not care about being the smartest person alive. And I'm pretty sure it has gotta have some heavy effect on the whole narrative. The Divine. Much like all the members of the G-Men, the Divine was also picked up by Goldoken when the former was just a child. Needless to say, Divine was also assaulted by Goldoken as a child, which was Goldoken's method of brainwashing the G-members. As far as his powers are concerned, he's a parody of Angel from the X-Men. Incineron. Incineron appeared in the first issue of The Boys in the documents of Kessler, but that's about it. It was said that he was shot down over a small Colombian village. Not a lot to tell here. Dr. Peculiar. In issue number 56, the boys, Butcher and Huey, visit Dr. Peculiar about some nasty business. You see, a sex worker that Dr. Peculiar had arranged jobs for is dead, and it looks like a superhero is to blame. Dr. Peculiar is known for his detailed records on almost every superhero, as he's the go-to guy for fulfilling their darkest desires, whether sexual or otherwise. Butcher, who was familiar with leveraging Peculiar's trove of secrets, plans to use this information to track down the killer. During the investigation, Huey learns more about Dr. Peculiar's role. Essentially, he's a broker of illicit pleasures, and trades in secrets about his superpowered clients who come to him for services that range from exotic to the downright dangerous. The term strange, used by Butcher to describe what Dr. Peculiar provides, high-end, one-time sexual partners for heroes willing to pay. Unlike the supernatural heroics of Doctor Strange, Dr. Peculiar operates in a much darker and more harmful reality, and arranges encounters that can lead to violence or worse for the workers involved. Dr. Peculiar's character is quite the perverted version of everything the mystical Doctor Strange represents, turning the notion of strange into something sinister. It kinda breaks my heart to see what Garth Ennis did to Stephen Strange's character. I guess it's mostly because when I think of Strange, I picture Mr. Cumberbatch. Shoutout. Shoutout's story is not quite that different from Big Game, so there's really no point in repeating all of it. But yes, Shoutout was also mentioned in Season 1 of the TV show, when Butcher mentions his name as one of the Supes he wants to look into. Stacker. In Season 3 of The Boys, after Billy Butcher's botched effort to control Termite for the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, Victoria Newman named several Supes for investigation, including Stacker. Stacker's powers include superhuman strength, which places him above ordinary humans and many other Supes. His exact strength level isn't fully disclosed, but he's recognized as a B-list superhero. He also has superhuman durability, which makes him tougher than most. Additionally, Stacker possesses enhanced hearing, able to detect frequencies inaudible to humans. However, his acute hearing comes with a vulnerability. Certain high frequencies can cause him intense pain and temporarily incapacitate him. This weakness makes him vulnerable in battles where such frequencies can be weaponized. To sum it up, he's basically a weirder form of Colossus. Airburst. Airburst is part of G-Wiz, a subgroup of Supes who live in a fraternity house just down the road from G-Mansion. Their days are filled with constant parties, watching adult movies, and making prank calls to other superheroes. Raised by Goldoken, their upbringing has left them sexually confused and oblivious to proper boundaries. When Huey goes undercover with them as Bagpipe, the boys end up eliminating most of the G-Wiz members. They interrogate Dimebag until Europa abruptly ends his life. Luckless. Luckless was one of the many children kidnapped by the cult leader and criminal John Goldoken during her youth. Lured to Goldoken's Connecticut mansion under the guise of joining his self-styled superhero teams, she was injected with Compound V, which granted her superhuman abilities. She later joined G-Force, one of Goldoken's superhero teams. Based out of G-Mansion, Luckless took on the role of caretaker and looked after the resurrected Nubia alongside her teammate Puss Puss. She openly expressed her concerns during Silver Kincaid's funeral, worried about the responsibilities of caring for another teammate brought back to life. However, her journey ended tragically when Vought American, seeking to distance itself from the liability posed by Goldoken and his teams, sent Red River operatives to attack their mansion, resulting in her death. Luckless had the power to fly and displayed a unique physical trait, pitch black skin with a striking white streak across her face, the purpose of which remains unclear. Luckless seems to draw inspiration from Marvel's Rogue and Domino. Her white facial streak mirrors Rogue's characteristic hair, while her name Luckless contrasts with Domino's luck-centric powers. In Season 3 of The Boys, Luckless took part in the Vought-sponsored reality show American Hero. She was eventually eliminated from the show. Jetstreak. Jetstreak is part of Teen Kicks, a group of younger superheroes who present a grittier alternative to teams like Young Americans. When the leader of the boys target them, Jetstreak and his teammates find themselves cornered by blackmail over their scandalous and illegal activities. Upon discovering who's behind the threats, Jetstream and the Teenage Kicks confront the boys on the streets. The encounter turns brutal, which leaves Jetstreak and his team severely injured. During the clash, Jetstreak faces harsh beatings at the hands of the Frenchman. Lord Horus. The mysterious Supe, known only as Lord Horus, was a target of the boys. During his time in prison, Lord Horus requested not to be released, a request that was ultimately ignored. Once free, he encountered the boys. The confrontation ended tragically for Lord Horus, who suffered severe spinal injuries, which was followed by a good old decapitation. A mace was also found embedded in his body, which required surgical removal. The exact individual responsible for his death among the boys remains unknown. The circumstances surrounding his death caught the attention of Susan L. Rayner, CIA Deputy Director, who reviewed a dossier linking Lord Horus' murder to Butcher's team. Wrangler. Based in San Antonio, Texas, Wrangler has made a name for himself as both a Supe celebrity and a champion in three-gun competitions across the United States. His fame extends to the silver screen, with appearances in films such as Border Wall, Last Line of Defense, Wrangler, The Angel on the Border, Migrant Mayhem, and Immigration Invasion. These roles clearly all align his public persona with themes of border security and anti-immigration, which basically reflects the niche he occupies in the entertainment industry.
I ain't gonna hurt you, just making a long overdue withdrawal.
Groundhawk. Groundhawk, known for his hammer hands, was dubbed a villain in the narrative spun by Vought International. In his film career, Groundhawk appeared alongside Crimson Countess in the Cold War propaganda film Crimson. He embraced the role of a supervillain as part of a staged act by Vought, intended to provide dramatic conflicts for Nubian Prince and Nubia to enhance their public persona. In an episode from The Boys Presents Diabolical, titled Nubian vs. Nubian, Groundhawk participates in a faked bank robbery as part of his villain act, which was orchestrated 8 years earlier. He allows himself to be defeated by Nubia after overpowering Nubian Prince. In a more personal plot twist, Groundhawk later reveals to Maya Nubian, the daughter of Nubian Prince and Nubia, that he's actually friends with her parents and that their previous encounters were all part of Vaught's manipulations. Maya, who was actually seeking to prevent her parents' divorce, blackmails him into staging another attack, which he does, and it somehow leads to a theatrical family reunion. In a news segment on Vought News Network, Cameron Coleman reports that Groundhawk was admitted to Vaught's Global Wellness Center for the 5th time to address his alcoholism following an incident involving an altercation with police near a Chicago bar. Despite his rugged and abrasive demeanor, in addition to his propensity for foul language, Groundhawk is not inherently malevolent. He shows a softer side when dealing with Maya, offers her comfort, and expresses genuine pleasure when his act helps her family reconcile. However, Groundhawk's unique condition with hammers for hands complicates everyday activities, which only adds to his anger and depressive states. Since retiring, he's gained weight and become physically less capable, although he still retains some of his superhuman strength and durability. These traits allow him to endure substantial physical confrontations and perform feats like flipping over a car, though he's visibly affected by the physical toll of battles and aging. Invisilass. Invisilass, once close with Queen Maeve, seems to have drifted apart from her, which was especially noticeable when Maeve spoke dismissively of her to Starlight at the Supes Awards. However, once upon a time, the two girls were so close that they went to this drug-fueled party with other superheroines. Invisilass is known for her intimate relationship with her teammates on the Fantastico team. During one of the Herogasm events, A-Train stumbled upon what he thought was a threesome among the male members, only to realize Invisilass was involved as well. Despite her physical engagement with them, she doesn't seem to regard her teammates very highly and continues her liaisons with Reacher Dick, another team member, even as they were unfazed by the doofer's fatal dose at the same party. She was slated to present at the Supes, but was replaced by Starlight due to a personal oversight with her tampon. Jimmy the One. Jimmy the One, the leader of the lesser-known superhero group Team Titanic, is in a relationship with the Starlight, a fellow team member. The comics do not detail his specific powers. His initial appearance occurs during a meeting with Vought American executives James Stillwell and Jess Bradley at Start Tower. The meeting is abruptly disrupted when the Frenchman and the female launch an attack on the team. In the chaos, the Starlight begins unleashing uncontrolled energy blasts. It's Jimmy the One who intervenes, directing her arms toward the Frenchman. Although he manages to sever the Frenchman's arms, the Starlight inadvertently decapitates another teammate, Country Mama. To prevent further casualties, Stillwell intervenes and orders a ceasefire. After this incident, Jimmy the One disappears from the story and is not seen again. 24 through 27. Apart from these 23, we have another 4 Supes, but since there's little to no information about them, I'm clubbing these 4 together. Their names are Pinwheel, Holy Mary, Black Helmet, and Pit Stop. So these were the 27 Supes who appeared in the show as names on a list. Now, while most of these are too obscure to appear in the show, there's no telling which of them might actually appear. Any guesses? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!